There were two halls then. Wow. One was given over to ballroom dancing and one to pop and rock and so on.
We were popping and rocking.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to Happy Ever Hull, a new podcast from the University of Hull where we'll be exploring the romantic side of campus with alumni who met their life partners while studying here. First up, we'll be hearing from Bob and Ruth.
Yeah, I'm Bob. I studied economics at Hull from 1962 to 1965.
And I'm Ruth, and I studied French from 1963 to 66.
What were some of the reasons for choosing Hull? Was there anything in particular?
Not at all, purely serendipity as to what happened. And somebody at school recommended Hull, and that was that.
In my case, it was one of a number of choices, but I had a preliminary interview the previous January, liked what I saw, and followed up Hull after A-level.
So how did you meet while you were at university?
Right, well, that was on the 9th of October, 1963. I was at Hull for the first time and just had Freshers' Week so that we could learn about the university and the campus and lectures, societies, etc. And it was at the Freshers' Dance on the Saturday.
Yeah, so I was second year, so I gate crashed the Freshers' Ball effectively. One of the new students in the digs I was in Holland Road didn't want to come, didn't want his ticket, so he gave it to me, and that was that.
Yes. So the Freshers' Dance was in the Students' Union building, which I think is now an admin building, in the refectory on the left.
Yes, there were two halls then. Wow. One was given over to ballroom dancing and one to pop and rock and so on.
We were popping and rocking.
Yes.
I was in digs for 5 terms, and because I was doing French, I could do either 1 year in France as an assistant helping in a school, or I could go to a university for a term. So I went to Montpellier University because I didn't want to be missing Bob for too many terms on end. So I had 5 terms in digs, went to France for a term, and then had a year in one of the student houses in 6 Cranbrook Avenue.
Well, I was in dig also, but in the first year before I met Ruth, it was down at the boulevard, and the delightful fisherman was the landlord, and he was a lovely gentleman, and he had a friend, another retired fisherman staying there, and every Saturday night they'd go to the club, and they'd have, with no exaggeration, 13 or 14 pints each. Come back, and when we got back there at midnight after the Saturday night dance, we'd sit chatting with them for, I don't know, another hour, 2 hours, whatever. And all the drink had done had just loosened their tongues. And they were telling it was lovely. But then I moved to much nearer digs in Holland Road for the next 2 years.
We went everywhere by bike.
Yes, we studied together in the stacks. I mean, we're completely different subjects, obviously, but the stacks then were in what is now the old building in the library. And there were seats at the end of the rows between the shelves. So they're quite secluded, shall we say, and lack of disturbance, lack of noise, but you could chat to each other, of course. Whereas in the main reading room, you couldn't really chat to each other.
Oh, no, to be frowned upon, wouldn't it?
Yes.
We went to the new theatre sometimes. That was the sort of more special event, I suppose. But we met on the 9th of October, and Bob's birthday's at the end of the month, and mine's in November. So we went twice to the new theatre for our birthdays, we discovered, having found the programmes the other day. And we liked to go to the cinema, didn't we?
Yeah, we went to, in those days, the Tower and Regent in Anlaby Road. I think one of them's left, still there. Is it the Tower?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure whether it's the Tower. I think one of them's still there. It's not a cinema. And they showed continental films, French avant-garde films. Yeah. And with you studying French, that was useful. And naturally, I enjoyed the subtitles. And the other advantage for us was that they had double stalls in the back rows.
Double seats.
Double seats, yes. That stall.
The university was quite a shock, you know, when you go back and you think of how small it was when we were there, and you know, the outer edge of it was Ferrens Hall, and we had our lectures. Well, I think you did as well, had some lectures, most of my lectures in what is now the Venn building, and even did our exams there as well. And then at the end of my time for French degree, we moved into the new arts building, which had a language lab, which was, you know, just terribly forward looking in those days. So yeah, it was quite a shock. I think the biggest shock was seeing the change to the library.
Yes, the library was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just monstrous. But that was good. One time with the alumni, we went up to the top, didn't we? Yeah. And we were allowed in Philip Larkin's room because we all remembered Philip Larkin. Though at the time we didn't think very much, you know, we weren't that impressed by him because, you know, he was just beginning to get published in the 60s. And, well, you know, there's the librarian sort of thing.
You go to the cycle back, park his bike and walk to the library, and that's all you sort of saw of him, you know.
Yes. We really enjoyed our time in Hull, and we liked living in Hull afterwards, and the people are friendly, and, you know, student life was great. So, yeah.
University has definitely changed our lives for the better. What we studied was in a sense less important than the whole experience. You know, both the academic, the methodology of how to work, how to go through life, and so on.
And just lastly, to sum up, is there any song that you think well encapsulates your relationship and your time at the university?
Definitely, "You Were Made for Me" by Freddie and the Dreamers was our favourite at the time. Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, and we actually got to see Freddie.
Yeah.
The way he dances to it, though, is horrendously old-fashioned.
Yeah.
It even makes us cringe looking now, but at the time it was great.
Next up are Anne and Alan.
I start? Yes, I did a joint degree in Latin and French, and
I did botany. They're both subjects never doesn't do anymore.
Well,
so.
they do the French, but they stopped the Latin, which is a shame. But never mind.
Yeah.
How did you both end up choosing Hull?
For me, it was the ability to do a joint degree rather than one speciality. So that was perfect.
And I think for me, it was one of only 2 universities in the country where I could do botany without having to have a foreign language to matriculate. The other one was Leicester, where Anne came from. So if I'd have gone to the other university, we would have never have met.
It seems like it was meant to be.
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about how you met.
The year, I think that was 1961, we both arrived there, but we didn't meet immediately. It was in the second year, we were selling ragga magazines, the Hullabaloo magazine, and Alan was with a group of men who weren't in Hall, I don't think.
No.
And they said, come and help sell the rag magazines for us. So we went around all the pubs in Hull, and the men sat there and watched.
We were the minders, and it so happened that Henry Cooper was actually on the television that night in the famous fight against Muhammad Ali, and so all the men, the minders, watched the boxing.
Well, we did all the selling.
Did very well.
Yes, and afterwards there was a big, on the lawns at Ferrens, there was a big barbecue, and we went there and there's a band and dancing, and I think perhaps we both had a bit.
I think I drank a bit too much. Really.
Yes, and I thought, gosh, what a marvellous dancer he was.
I probably was that evening. I think I was a butterfly or something.
No, I was a butterfly. You were the willow.
Was I? All right. Yes.
After I thought what a good dancer he was, I invited him to Thwaite Ball, which is a big ball where you got all dressed up. He didn't actually dance very well there because he hadn't had enough to drink.
I wasn't very good at the quick step, I'm afraid.
It was the old-fashioned
This was the days of the Beatles, and I was much better with the Beatles than I was with the.
But anyway, we had another date just to make it so it wouldn't be awkward at the ball, and
yes.
Then sort of saw each other after that. And it was Valentine's Day the following year that we decided. I was due to go to Leicester to do my PGCE, but Alan was staying to do a PhD, and we thought we were going to be separated. So let's get engaged, and I'll apply to Hull to do the PGCE. We got our degrees in '64, so went home and got married
Straight away.
in October.
Yes.
Because I said in those days you couldn't live together.
God,
You
no.
had to be married. It wasn't respectable.
No,
in
our
those
parents,
days.
I mean,
Our parents wouldn't have allowed it.
we lived directly across from the main entrance of the university on Cottingham Road in one of those big houses in the billiards room, which they just converted. So we
Into a
had
flat for
we had a
us.
flat
Yes.
there.
Most of our life was spent really centered around the university, all the dances and the.
All of that time, I went to the same dances every Saturday night. We had some great performers and what have you. As I say, it was the start of the sort of 60s. And although we were both there, we never actually met on the dance floor at all.
Until afterwards.
Afterwards,
yeah.
yes. I think actually I've got really interested in many of the things I knew about, you know. So if we go to Pompeii or something of that,
Yes, we have lots of holidays in Greece because of all the lovely remains and things. You'd love to go to all those.
And you farms, because I've always worked in horticulture.
So it's got work well together.
We've each developed joint interests, I think, based on our different interests in the first place, I think, yeah. And football. We're very keen on football. We go to Brighton every other weekend for the football there. But in Hull, I went to see Hull City, the Tigers, every time they were at home.
Have you been able to visit Hull or the university since you graduated?
Oh yes, we went 2 or 3 times, and the last time
we went to a couple of reunions, actually, didn't we?
Yes, we went.
Yeah.
Yes, but we also went in when Hull was City of Culture.
Yes.
Is that about 4 years ago now? It's great to see that. I mean, the university has grown tremendously since then.
We had a lot of fun trying to work out where things were, because the buildings we knew were there, but they'd been consumed with inside other buildings and what have you.
If you had to choose a song to represent your relationship and your time at the university, what do you think it would be?
The year we met, 1963, was, I think the biggest song by far was the Beatles, She Loves Me. And I think, everything was starting.
It was Beatlemania really then.
It was the swinging 60s, the whole world changed, I think, really, and we changed with it. Yes, I think that exemplifies it, really.
You've been listening to Happy Ever Hull, celebrating our alumni community and their experiences at the University of Hull and beyond. If you want to keep in touch with us and be part of the University of Hull alumni community, drop us an email on alumni@hull.ac.uk or follow us on Facebook and Twitter @HullAlumni.